100 Thieves, I see you guys. I see you. You're looking kind of clean now. You know, they were probably a little tilted from their loss against Movistar to get to this place in the first place because you don't want to be the first NA team to kind of just get bodied in play-ins here. That would be a bad look, especially from such a high, quote-unquote, high-caliber team. It's a rookie roster, but one that has a lot of upside and a lot of potential. And their drafts are already clean, but when they get even cleaner drafts with clean gameplay to facilitate, this is what basically sent SoftBank to the Shadow Realm here. And I wanted to kind of walk it through with you guys a little bit. So, game one, do note that there's a lot of topside bans here, actually. And it could be because they're trying to neutralize and make it as slow of a lane as possible, right? I would say definitely Sniper's a more dynamic laner against someone like Evie, who, if we look around, he's actually a very weak side player. You know, he's very chill. Look at this, a lot of tanks. He has a little bit of rumble, but he doesn't look too hot, right? And he's very normalized to the tanks. He doesn't like playing very volatile at all. I am surprised they go for the Cassante ban though. It could be because they're just afraid of the dynamic if they double weak side and then the Cassante causes some issues. But I'm surprised you could go for the Poppy matchup if you let him take Cassante, then you go Poppy and you go Poppy Flex as well, even if you wanted to go for a strong side option. Aurora Flex is also good though. I'm not too mad at that. It is a solid opener. They do exchange in terms of what's left in terms of the most priority picks. It's Ashe is still open. In terms of Z, actually that's pretty much it, and then it's kind of just stylistic from there, right? So Yone's, I would say, if things like the Ziggs, the Ashe, the Aurora are Z tier picks in this current meta, I would say things like the Yone, and I believe they pick Renekton or Ashe here as the second pick, are more in the A tier, right? So Cassante's banned, Rumble's up there too, but Evie's probably not going to play Rumble. They're not that kind of team, and then. This is a little bit confusing for me from SoftBank because I mentioned in previous videos about the Poppy tech where it's very fragile, and when you reveal certain information, then the coast is clear, right? This is kind of backwards because let's say, for example, the enemy team is not going to be forward, but then they can't go for the Yone angle, then you can go for Poppy, but then they go for a soft self counter pick with Poppy into the Yone. The reason I say this, even though stylistically Poppy is a good backwards champion, is because she is very strong against people with dashes. But Yone has a bit of a true engage in the sense. So his R is goes through Poppy W. His E2 goes through Poppy W as well. So it's not it doesn't do its job as well as you think it would. I would say if I forget if this is a support, I think it is. It might be better to go for a Braum angle here instead, to be honest with you. But I'm also not a big fan of raw dogging the Ezreal, especially when I haven't seen it do too well. Firstly, overall across the event, I think it's probably it might get dropped, to be honest with you, as we get deeper into the event, and as well as I guess SoftBank Hawks don't really have much they want to open with, which is a little bit awkward. They could have went jungle here. I guess this is a soft Poppy triple flex, so that's why they go AD. I would have liked to see things like more aggressive picks as well. They could have went for a Lucian lane or could go Jhin open here as well. Just to if you have to go AD, he is probably the most prominent AD carrier of the patch and would have guaranteed the best matchup. Of course, Ashe would have been great here if they could have played it, but I guess they can't, and they determined that. So I definitely think that SoftBank gets punished a little bit for this. What they do gain though is that 100 Thieves only can go forward at this point pretty much. Kai'Sa's normally in the past recently she's had a bit of a poke identity as well, but thankfully that's been removed because that was a little bit broken. And typically you would think the coast is clear from this point, right? This is a non-answer. This is automatic Leona on 4. They just need it. So it's not really real. So they basically, there's good incentive for SoftBank to put the Poppy on bot side here with the Ezreal, and they probably will. And then these last two picks, it's then you see Brand Jungle on 5, and it's really, really rough, It's do you see what I mean? Where just across that 2-3, and I guess the 4-5 is kind of weird as well, where SoftBank would limit their options too much, and then when they try to go for a pivot, their comp is already stunted. So their comp is like a little bit homeless, if that makes sense. And they're blinding a lot of things at the wrong time. So they try to cash in the Poppy triple flex, but it does lock you into a certain type of composition, like I mentioned. So that's why earlying Poppy, like Poppy is disgusting when you can pick it later, but then when you pick it early, it's actually really abusable. And you can kind of see that here, right? They're forced, and they're blinding Wukong, which is typically the counter pick jungler. I would say in this meta right now, but they're not playing things that are safer. And when they want to try to punish things like the Yone, their comp just doesn't make sense for it. So it's a little bit sloppy, but also really solid on 100 Thieves to be able to be the most flexible here, right? It's like the ability to play the good things and as well as hold off until you make the right pivots at the right time. SoftBank respond by going blue again. They think blue is better. I'm not 100% sure about that, to be honest with you. And they also just end up switching directions and they don't go for the Aurora. They also ban the Yone so that they don't have to deal with that again. Yone blind. And they go for a Sejuani opener, which is like kind of like a last patch thing. It's not that bad. It's definitely a better opener in terms of how like overall. But you're giving up so much. I think you're in a right. I think overall we're in sort of like a red side environment, and you can kind of tell. Just like 100 Thieves have always had pretty clean drafting. Like Golden Glue's kind of cooking on this. Now they go for the Jhin. It's looking a lot better this time for SoftBank because now they have a lot more options and they're playing more flexibly. Let's put it that way. So if you look at this game state in terms of draft, it's actually pretty solid now. They cleaned up. Their comp can go both ways. They are adapting accordingly to what can give their comp a lot of issues. 100 Thieves actually go for a pretty solid jungle knock on 4. However, this does leave them up for some abuse because now 100 Thieves' comp is heavily leaning towards a forward sort of nature to counter the Jhin. So SoftBank can try to go backwards here a little bit more, but they kind of don't. And it's a little bit of catch-22 because now Nocturne, it's like now 100 Thieves just go for the Braum on 5 and they threaten the front to back. This is a very weird situation where normally if let's say for example SoftBank does draft optimally here and they go for some more peel, then 100 Thieves can actually tech Enchanter on 5. And then it's a bit of like damned if you do, damned if you don't. So it's actually a bit of a checkmate here. It's a fork on from 100 Thieves because Ashe is so flexible. And this is one of the reasons why I think Ashe is so good. Like a champion like Jhin doesn't have that same flexibility. So let's say, for example, they have Nocturne, right? And SoftBank, they go for something more defensive. Let's say, hypothetically, Evie can go like Cassante or Poppy here and try to like play more defensive, right? I don't know if he has it in him, but like let's say for example hypothetically, right, they can play more backwards, they can play for the Jhin, or they can even tech like Jhin Braum. It doesn't sound that great on paper, but when you have like the idea of being able to play backwards and have enough oomph, then it's not like that bad. Obviously, I don't think both of them should be needed because your comp needs enough damage. But like on paper, if they were to respond to the Nocturne, right, then actually Ashe can just tap into the entire Enchanter pool, and they're also screwed, right? Because now they just get stat checked. So from this point, it's like it's kind of rough, right? Where I think you shouldn't be letting these priority picks through, and even though, especially when you're taking blue first, right? I think when you go blue and you B1 Sejuani, you're not really gaining anything because they're always going to give it to you. You can go Sejuani on red too if you wanted to, right? And then you can just tap in much stronger into the R3 and the R5 because counter picks seem to be so potent. So really clean drafting overall. It's just like catching SoftBank at these specific timers that they're not catching out. And yeah, I think they deserve to be punished here. So good job, 100 Thieves, and I'll catch you in the next draft. See you guys.